Hey, friends. So let's stop managing your pet's allergies and actually resolve them. We're going to talk about allergies and itching in dogs and cats and probably other animals, including us. This is uh, things that will apply to all animals, including us. So the hot. I just had to turn off the sound on my YouTube. So if you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat on YouTube, and I will address those at the end. But the red paws, the hot spots, the greasy fur, the ear infections, the rashes, the red armpits, the red groins, the red belly that flares up every now and then, your cat with ripply skin or licking their fur out, and then everything just comes back the moment the medication stops. So the constant scratching, the flares that you think were gone and they just come right back over and over and over, and you're doing all the things right. You're changing foods, you're wiping their paws, you're buying special shampoos, you're rotating medications like Apoquel, Cytopoint, prednisone. You're on special diets like the limited ingredient diets. You're doing ointments and eardrops. You're guessing and guessing and guessing and suppressing symptoms. So each round, each flare feels like it's getting worse and harder to control, because it probably is. That's frustrating. So itching is not a diagnosis, it's a signal. And today I'm going to talk about what that signal actually means and what you can do about it. So today I'm going to give you practical steps that you can start implementing right away to help your pet's body stop overreacting. Not just a list of things to avoid. So, allergies. What looks like allergies is most often unresolved inflammation. So the body starts an inflammatory response. Things get red and irritated, and the body can't complete the shutdown and repair phase. So when inflammation happens, that's a normal reaction in the body, and the body has mechanisms to then repair itself and shut down the inflammation. But that doesn't happen when your pet has allergies. So let's get the science out of the way. your pet's your pet has two immune systems. We have two immune systems. There's an innate immune system, which is the ancient Neanderthal, fast, automatic side of the immune system that creates inflammation, redness, swelling, itching, heat whenever there's something wrong. And then we also have an adaptive immune system. So this is a slower, smarter side of the immune system that has learned to recognize specific things like pollen, foods, or anything dangerous. So it's learned, and that overreaction that it triggers is what most people mean when they say allergies. So it's usually an adaptive immune response when we talk about allergies. But if we ignore the innate immune system, that's where we get in trouble. So here's the big shift. So chronic allergy cases, the real problem isn't just the adaptive immune system overreacting to a trigger. It's that innate immune system's inflammation that got turned on, and the body can't complete the shutdown and repair phase. So your pet is stuck in a loop of redness, itching, flare-ups, even when you've done all the right things. So triggers matter, but the bigger question is why the off switch isn't working reliably. Your pet is stuck in a pattern where diet-driven metabolic stress, meaning excess free radical production that reduces nitric oxide, then worsens endothelial dysfunction and keeps inflammatory traffic flowing into the tissues like the skin and the ears, so resolution can't complete. So if you want more on the science, that's all I'm going to go over on the science. But I have details in my Substack article. It's called Allergies. It's Not What You Think. Let me get you a QR code for that. Allergies. There it is. Okay, so just scan that QR code if you're a science nerd and want to go deeper into all the science on inflammation and nitric oxide and free radical production and that kind of stuff. But we're going to go over more practical things now. But if you want the science, it's there. So check out my Substack. I also have a ton of articles on allergies and skin problems in there as well. All right. So the gut connection. So we have to talk about that because it's really important. 75 to 80% of the immune system lives in the gut. When the gut barrier weakens, aka leaky gut, partially digested food, proteins, and inflammatory particles cross that barrier, that leaky gut, the inside of your gut that is damaged, and gets access to the bloodstream. So the immune system then flags these things that enter the bloodstream as threats, and the body becomes hyperreactive to those things, whether it's pollen or food or some kind of protein. So previous things that your pet tolerated will get flagged later on, because a lot of times the things that get flagged are the things that your pet has been eating forever, for years. And it's seasonal pollen that they've had exposure to for years, or it's the normal yeast populations on their skin that they've always had. All of a sudden, the gut barrier breaks down, things get access to the circulation, and the body says that's a problem, and it triggers a reaction. So the skin is one of the largest immune organs, and it becomes the outlet for that internal imbalance. But, so what do? Suppression, so using topicals and medications like the Apoquel and Cytopoint and ear medicines and Animax on the skin. Suppression doesn't equal resolution. It's not the same thing. In fact, suppression actually perpetuates the problem. Granted, medications that reduce itch provide relief, and no animal should suffer unnecessarily. But suppression isn't resolution. So if you have to get them under control with something, great, but realize you're starting from square one again every time you do that. Silencing the skin response without addressing the underlying gut dysfunction is futile. The flare stops temporarily, the medication runs out, the same internal environment is there that's unbalanced, and the cycle restarts. That's why you're stuck. So it's a mind shift or a mindset shift. So we want to move from why is my pet reacting to something to how do I support their body so it stops overreacting. So step one, rule out the basics. I had a pet health strategy session last week that this exact thing happened to a dog. And so skipping this step is one of the most common reasons pets get mislabeled as allergic and stay stuck. We want to look at other causes of itching besides allergies, things like parasites, external parasites like fleas and mites, internal parasites like worms. Those all will cause itching on the skin. So I had a case where a little rescue poodle was treated for allergies. And finally, a veterinarian did a skin scrape, which is a test where they take a sample of the the dry skin and the surface of the skin and look under the microscope. And they found sarcoptic mites, which are extremely infectious to other dogs and to people. So she likely had them, and her other dog had them, and they're causing itching in the whole household. And that happens. I've seen that myself, where you have a pet with chronic itching and no one has done a skin scraping. No veterinarian has done one. So have it done. If your vet recommends it, have it done, because if it's mites and not allergies, that's a whole lot easier to take care of. Also, check the poop sample, a fecal sample, for intestinal parasites like the worms. Those can actually cause itchy skin. So we want to rule out the simple stuff, the basic stuff. Another basic thing is the secondary skin infections. And we'll talk about how they relate to gut overgrowth. So when there are rashes and skin problems, bacteria and yeast overgrow on the skin. And that's a common consequence of a disrupted skin barrier. And that's one of the theories in conventional medicine on allergies, that it's just a disrupted skin barrier. And then they try to like seal up the skin with topical stuff. It's deeper than that. But the infections, the overgrowth of bacteria and yeast that happens secondarily to the skin barrier problems and the triggers drive a lot of the itch. So if you don't take care of that overgrowth of the bacteria and yeast, the itch just keeps going. And the skin mirrors what's going on in the gut. So both the skin and the gut has a microbiome. So there's a normal population of yeast, bacteria, even parasites on the skin and in the gut. But we want to look for the ones that are not normal, and we want to take care of the overgrowth of them. So when we have a disrupted microbiome in the gut and on the skin, this increases the permeability. So in the intestines, it's leaky gut. On the skin, it's leaky skin. It's a disruption in the skin barrier. All right, and that's what keeps the immune system in a constant state of reactivity. So use natural products if possible when you're treating bacterial and yeast overgrowth, whether they're in the gut or on the skin. But make your pet comfortable, and realize if you use pharmaceuticals, you're just going to have to start over, but you want to have your pet comfortable. There's no reason your pet has to suffer. Some of the topical stuff that I like for skin is from the brand called Dermacent. It's a French company, and it has natural products for skin and ears, allergies and itching and the overgrowth of bacteria and yeast and all that. So check out Dermacent. They have some nice products, and I think they're even on Chewy. There's some of their products on Chewy, not all of them. And then with the gut, to find out if you've got an overgrowth of bacteria and yeast in the gut, you can do a gut microbiome test, which is a poop test. Let me get a QR code for that. All right, so there's a microbiome test. You can do that from home. You just send in a sample of your pet's poop, and it'll give you a readout of the normal bacteria and yeast, the abnormal ones, how bad they are, if it's missing the good ones, if it's got too many of the bad ones. It'll tell you what's going on. The other thing we want to look for with the basics is hormones. So hormone imbalances can be an underlying problem for skin disease or itching. The most common one is thyroid problems. So low thyroid levels in dogs, or hypothyroidism, slows metabolism, suppresses the immune system, leaves the skin vulnerable to infection, thins the skin, And then on the flip side, cats usually get hyperthyroidism, so too high of thyroid. And the thing with them is the medication, the pharmaceuticals used for hyperthyroid cats a lot of times will trigger rashes. So there are options for that. All right, so number one, we want to rule out the basics. Number two, we want to change what's in the bowl. This is the single most important thing you can do. A lot of you are probably already doing it, but we may have to tweak things. So with food, we want to reduce the inflammatory load from the processed food. So if you're feeding processed food, which is basically kibble and canned, anything high heat processed. Kibble is made through a process called extrusion, which is using high heat and pressure, and that produces advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And the AGEs contribute to oxidative stress, causing the free radicals and damaging molecules, which overwhelms the body's defenses. That's enough of that science. There's more to the science if you want to know more. So commercial kibble and canned food is inflammatory, and that will keep that cycle going because itching and allergies are a form of inflammation. So that's the biggest thing we can do to stop the inflammation from being produced over and over and over is switch the food to a species appropriate, balanced, real food diet. Let me show you a couple that I like. Here's one. So this is one of my favorite foods. This is All Provide. That's Judy Morgan's company. Really great dog and cat foods. And then the other one I like is Raised Right, which is Barbara Royale and Karen Becker have formulated those. Really nice for dogs and cats, I believe. So those are some of my favorites. All right. So the other thing about the high heat processed commercial diets like kibble and canned is they have a lot of carbohydrates. And even with the fresh food diets, we want to make sure there aren't a lot of carbohydrates, meaning your starchy carbs, your rice, corn, wheat, potatoes, peas, lentils, that kind of thing. We don't want the starchy carbs. The kibble and canned food use those starchy carbs to hold the kibble shape together. And same with the canned, it kind of makes that loafy look to the canned. So we want to feed foods that are low in carbohydrates and don't have the starchy carbs. I would use the ones that the carbs are from vegetable sources, because dogs and cats are biologically designed to run on protein and fat, not carbohydrates. And so when we keep adding when we keep adding starches to the gut, it changes the gut ecosystem. So we're feeding the wrong organisms in there. It reduces the diversity. It increases the imbalance in the gut. The other thing about the diets is we want to prioritize whole food nutrition over synthetic vitamins and minerals. So because the high heat process that it takes to make kibble and canned food destroys all the natural vitamins and minerals and enzymes, the manufacturers have to add back in synthetic versions of those after the food is cooked. But the synthetic nutrients lack the natural cofactors that help the body absorb them. So they're really not bioavailable. And the skin relies on adequate vitamins and minerals and fatty acids to maintain its integrity. So if we're using synthetic vitamins and minerals, deficiencies can happen, which will weaken the skin defenses. And even excesses can happen. That's happened in the past with too high of certain vitamins or minerals in the synthetic vitamin blend that a kibble or canned food did. So the excess of some vitamins and minerals can amplify the inflammation. Where if you're using a food that is balanced in the vitamins and minerals naturally by the foods that are in it, the body can use them and they're not out of balance. Also be aware of what's hiding in the food. So glyphosate, very common in grains and legumes. Mycotoxins or the mold toxins in the grain-based diets. Microplastics are now being found in pet foods. So the biggest thing is if we reduce the processed grain-based food, automatically that reduces the exposures to glyphosates, mycotoxins, and probably microplastics or microplastics. Yeah, bad stuff in there. So many of you are probably doing real food diets already. And if you're not, that's going to be your big takeaway today. If you are already doing a fresh food diet and your pet is still having problems, then we need to look at food sensitivities. So the difference between food sensitivity and food allergy is important because food sensitivities develop gradually and they're the result of the leaky gut where the food proteins are leaking through the intestinal walls and getting into the circulation and the body is triggering a response to them. And so I use the saliva test for those. Whereas food allergies are more like your anaphylactic peanut allergy kind of issues. And that's what is tested with a lot of the commercial blood tests. So a food allergy test is not the same as a food sensitivity test. So let me get you a QR code for the food sensitivity test. This is a saliva test that you can do at home. You collect your pet saliva on a cotton wick, squeegee it into a little vial and send it in, and they send you back a report of all the things your pet is sensitive to. I've had really good success with this test. In fact, one of my colleagues had a dog with horrible skin problems and it kind of like came out of the blue. And I had her run a pet food sensitivity test on her dog, and their dog was allergic to a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, she eliminated all of the stuff that was on the test results, and literally the skin cleared up in 2 days. It was freaking amazing. All right, so takeaway: whole food, species appropriate diet is the foundation for rebuilding the microbiome. You can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. The diet is the foundation. All right, step 3, support the gut. All right, so we just talked about diet, so that lowers the inflammatory input. And we want to reduce unnecessary medications also. When we support the gut, the reason we support the gut is that's where immune tolerance was destabilized in the first place. So it's also where we need to start to repair. So diet we talked about, but how about unnecessary medications? Ideally, you want to use more natural products for really anything you're using for the skin and allergies and gut problems. Things like antibiotics, they don't distinguish between harmful and beneficial bacteria. They just wipe it all out. Things like the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like carprofen, Rimadyl, meloxicam, they can affect the mucosal lining gastric ulcers or stomach ulcers is one of the side effects of NSAIDs, right? So it's destroying the lining of the stomach and the intestine. Acid blockers like Pepcid interfere with protein digestion and allow more of the microbes to survive and colonize. So it changes the microbiome. Steroids suppress the immune system, can also thin the mucus tissues over time inside the gut. So you want to work with your practitioner to minimize medications that aren't absolutely necessary. If they are absolutely necessary to make your pet comfortable, then do them. But know that you're going to start back at square one again, and you need to repair what has been damaged. So you need to have a plan to support the gut alongside of using something like an antibiotic or an NSAID, and then realize you're going to have to rebuild that microbiome again. So we want to rebuild the diversity in the gut, because when it's balanced and diverse, the gut integrity or the gut lining, the quality of it is maintained, and the immune responses of your pet are appropriate. If it's disrupted, immune signaling shifts, and that shift shows up as allergic skin disease. So you can repair the gut with things like probiotics, digestive enzymes. Those are common, simple, inexpensive. I've actually got a gut support bundle. Let me find that has some nice products in there. That's my gut support bundle. So you can kind of check those out. There's a 10% discount in there for you. And consider probiotics and digestive enzymes if you haven't already. The next thing you want to do is you want to restore the barrier integrity. Basically, you want to seal that leaky gut. This is not a quick fix. It requires patient, consistent rebuilding. It is not fast. We have broken down that lining of the intestine over months or years, and it's going to take a while to rebuild. In my gut support bundle, there's a product called Nutrigest, and I like that one because it's got glutamine in there, which is one of the amino acids that we use to repair the lining of the gut. And it also has some probiotics in it. So it's a nice kind of all-around supplement. Other things that can help the gut repair are things like bone broth or colostrum. Sometimes we'll use vitamin B12 that helps with the gut, and a lot of pets are actually deficient in B12 when they have gut problems. The other thing we want to do is we want to reduce inflammation in the gut and in the body, and we want to support the immune system. So simple things like omega-3 fatty acids support the skin barrier from the inside out. But omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory for the whole body. So it helps with the gut barrier, the skin, the hair, the brain, the heart, everything. The other nice supplement is reishi mushrooms, the mushroom of immortality. It's an immune modulator, and it's used for pets with allergies. So that is the mushroom of choice for allergies. And that is I believe that's in my gut support bundle. It might be in my Ditch the Itch bundle. Let me see if I can find that. There it is. The Ditch the Itch, allergy support bundle has the reishi mushrooms in there. Those are really nice. And reishi mushrooms are immune modulatory, which means they don't suppress the immune system, because allergies in conventional medicine, allergies are an overstimulation of something, an overreaction to a trigger. But in holistic medicine, we understand that it is both an overreaction and it's a suppressed immune system. So it's actually both. So we need to bring that reaction down, as well as help the immune system function. And so we want to modulate, not just suppress. So things like prednisone just suppress. Mushrooms will modulate. So they take the immune system and get it into a normal place instead of increasing it or decreasing it. So they're immune modulators. Wonderful. All right. So step 4. All right. We want to address the hidden amplifiers. You may not have realized this, but stress is one of the most underestimated drivers of chronic inflammation and itching. So, chronic stress keeps cortisol high, which leads to immune suppression. It changes how the gut moves, so it changes the motility of the gut. The enzymes are reduced in the gut, so digestion doesn't occur very well. The microbiome shifts, and then leaky gut happens more readily. So the end result of stress is leaky gut. And stress doesn't have to look dramatic. So things like inconsistent routines, separation anxiety, household tension, maybe lack of enrichment. You're not taking your dog on a walk every day, or they're just kind of couch potatoes. Frequent boarding, social conflict with other animals in the house, even untreated pain. So our older dogs with arthritis, or our older cats with arthritis, which is sometimes hard to detect in a cat or a small dog. So untreated pain can be very stressful. So we want to look for that. And practical strategies would be have a predictable daily routine. Pets love routines. Adequate sleep, safe resting places, regular exercise or regular outdoor exposure, enrichment activities, whether it's puzzle toys, or with cats with the little red lights or the feathers and stuff, just something to keep them engaged and active and moving. You want to address separation anxiety, and there are things that you can do for that. Or social conflict, you want to figure out the issues and resolve that. So when we support the nervous system, regulation shifts the body, and then it shifts towards rest and digest mode, where repair can actually happen. So we want to support the nervous system, and we want to help them with any stress. A nice supplement that you can use for stress and anxiety in pets is ashwagandha. And I actually did the talk, I think it was last week, on ashwagandha. And there's an article in Substack on that too. And ashwagandha is in the gut support bundle because it's really important to address stress. And ashwagandha is very safe. The other thing that can be a hidden trigger that will amplify allergies and itching is obesity. So excess fat is not just something benign that sits there. It's actually an inflammatory organ. So fat tissue releases inflammatory signaling molecules continuously and alters the microbiome. The nice thing about diet, if we switch the diet, a lot of times pets will, when they're put on a fresh food diet that doesn't have the starchy carbs, the weight comes off without reducing calories. So when you put them on a appropriate diet, a species appropriate diet, the obesity takes care of itself, which is nice. Related to obesity is sedentary living. That just compounds everything. What do they say now? That sitting is the new smoking or something. So it's a problem. So if your dog or cat is a couch potato, granted, older cats, they sleep a lot, but we want to do something. Regular movement supports insulin sensitivity, circulation, lymphatic flow, as well as the microbiome diversity. Physical activity is associated with beneficial bacteria and greater production of anti-inflammatory compounds. And this nourishes the intestinal cells, which is where we're working to fix, which is the underlying problem with allergies and itchy skin. So appropriate daily exercise is not optional. The practical takeaway is it's part of the treatment plan. So get out and walk your dog. It'll help you too. The other thing we want to do is we want to reduce the total toxic load. And there are toxins everywhere, and a lot of them we cannot avoid, but a lot of them we can. So we want to think about the chemical exposures our pets are and us are exposed to. So things like synthetic air fresheners, scented candles, fragrances, fragrance laundry detergent, grooming products, household cleaning products. We also want to think about water quality. If you don't drink your tap water, your pet should not either, because there's a lot of junk in that. Pesticides, whether you're doing something on your pet or giving your pet something for fleas and ticks, which is a chemical, that's a problem. That's disrupting the microbiome right there. So you kind of have to rethink your preventatives. So you want to simplify what is in your pet's environment, what touches their skin, what you're giving your pet, because fewer chemicals means less for an already overwhelmed immune system. So we don't want to have too much for them to process. The liver and the lymphatic system has to process all these toxins. And so one of the things that you can do, a practical thing that you can do, is do a gentle detox, liver detox, because when the liver can do its job, the skin doesn't have to pick up the slack as the elimination organ. In the, I believe it's in the gut support bundle, is a product called Live It 2, which is an Ayurvedic herbal product for liver detox, which helps your pet's body eliminate toxins they're exposed to. So you want to consider a detox, and you can do that periodically. You can do that low dose consistently. There are different protocols. All right. So just to recap, we want to rule out the basics, the parasites, the secondary infections, the hormone imbalances, and we want to address them, because if we don't address them, we're not going to solve the problem. Number 2, we want to change what's in the bowl. We want to feed unprocessed food. So no starchy carbs. The carbs need to come from something like vegetables. We want to prioritize whole food nutrition. I gave you some links for All Provide and Raised Right, and I will put the links under this video also. We want to support the gut. So we want to help with the microbiome, whether it's with probiotics. We want to restore the barrier integrity. We want to restore that leaky gut, as well as restore the skin barrier. So things like glutamine and colostrum and bone broth can help the gut, but when you help the gut, you also help the skin barrier. So we want to reduce those inflammatory inputs, okay? And then we want to address the hidden amplifiers: stress, obesity, toxins. So the bottom line is, suppressing the itch does not resolve the itch. So chronic itching develops when the skin barrier is compromised, the immune system loses regulation, and the gut microbiome can no longer support balance. So these factors just stack on top of each other and amplify each other. And that's why when we're just doing topical Otamax, Momenamax, whatever, Animax, topical stuff on the skin, or prednisone or Apoquel or Cytopoint, those are surface level fixes, and they don't hold because they're not addressing the internal imbalances. So if you've been on the merry-go-round and you're ready to get off, these are the things that can help you. So gut support, diet, triggers. If you need help, if your pet has a really complicated problem and you've done all this and you're like, why is it not working? I do consultations Let me pull up that. I'm going to get you a QR code. This is a pet health strategy session where we just jump on a Zoom and troubleshoot, and then I help you with what your next steps are and some specific products. If it's more complicated than that and you have a ton of records and lab results and stuff, then you're probably better off doing a full telehealth consultation where I do record review. There's a QR code for that. I am losing my voice. Okay. And then I have a free handout called Ditch the Itch. Let me get that for you. There it is. All right. This is a free guide about itching and allergies. All right. Thank you for being with me. My voice is about had it. Check out my free guide. Check out my consults if you need help. And don't forget the basics. Diet, gut support, reducing stress, reducing inflammation. All right. Have a great day. I'll